Hello guys, this is Max, and today we are going to be breaking down the notorious FizzBuzz program in Java. FizzBuzz is a common test used by employers of programmers to see if they know basic programming knowledge of a certain language and to sort of weed out the sort of best of the best, or at least the start of it. A lot of people have trouble with this, but today I will be showing you my personal FizzBuzz program, break it down, and then maybe at the end of the video I'll give you guys some challenges so that you can sort of elaborate on this. So at the top you see this little tidbit up here, public class FizzBuzz. That is sort of like the template of the Java program. You can also see that is called fizzbuzz.java. What that means is that the program is called FizzBuzz and can be referred to by other files. However, we're not going to be looking over that today. Same with this thing right here. This is essentially what gets output. So it just shows up this stuff. This isn't like a method or an object. Again, that will be for a totally different time. However, what we will be looking at today is the meat in here, as this is essentially what runs the actual FizzBuzz program. So up here you have a for loop. Now, as opposed to what you guys probably heard of like an if-else loop, a for loop runs a certain amount of times so that you could run something like, say, 4 times or 5 times or as many times as you want for a certain amount. And this is how Java initializes a for loop. So the first part right here is to declare a variable that can be brought up within the loop, but also just determines it's like sort of a timer to check how many times it's run through. So for this one I have named I as my integer and set it equal to 1 at the beginning. The next thing right here is I has to be less than or equal to 15. This sort of limits how many times the for loop can run, so it doesn't run essentially forever. In reality, Java would throw an exception stating, hey, you're running this for way too long, and by way too long, I mean this is possibly an infinite loop. But then this part right here sort of fixes everything up. This I++ adds 1 to I for every time you run through the loop. So the first time you would have I equal to 1, the second time I would equal 2, so on and so forth. And in this case, it will stop once it has reached a method or a number above 15, so it will not run for the 16th time. It will only run for the 15th time since I has to be less than or equal to 15. And you might think 15 is an arbitrary number, but it's specifically made for this FizzBuzz test because of this little guy right here known as the modulus. Now, the modulus is essentially sort of your remainder in Java or in many other programming languages. So, for example, if you had to run 7 modulus 2, the output would be 1 since in basic 3rd grade division, 7 divided by 2 would equal 3 with a remainder of 1. And this is just to test whether it is essentially divisible by 3. So if it is divisible by 3, or if I is divisible by 3, this will print out fizz. And then you can guess sort of where you go next with buzz. In this case, it has to be divisible by 5. However, the reason it's called FizzBuzz is that if it is divisible by 15, it will print out FizzBuzz. And if you note the difference between the print line and the print statements, this just means that it will run on the same lines, so sort of like this. The print line command can be used as a regular print command, however it will start the next print statement on a new line. So this is just to sort of separate the numbers, and this is to sort of make the printing of FizzBuzz much easier, since it won't take sort of a different line to say, oh, if I is divisible by 15, print out FizzBuzz. And in any other case, which is essentially what this means, so that if I is not divisible by 3 and I is not divisible by 5, it will just print out I. So I have my terminal open, and I'm going to run FizzBuzz, well, first you've got to compile it, but that's besides the point. If you're using a program like VS Code, it will give you a sort of terminal within itself, but since I'm doing it this way, this is how I'm going to run it. And it's just going to take a little bit. And as you can see here, we have our 1, since 1 is neither divisible by 3 or 5. We have our 2, but then we have our fizz right here. And the reason we have our fizz right there is because 3 is divisible by 3, so therefore you have fizz as an output. And then you have 4, since 4 is neither divisible by 3 or 5. And then you have buzz, since 5 is of course divisible by 5. And 6 is replaced by fizz, since 6 divided by 3 is 2 without a remainder. Therefore, you have fizz, and then you continue so on and so forth. And the reason I stop at 15 is because it prints both fizz and buzz in sort of connected sort of fizz buzz right here, since 15 is both divisible by 3 and 5. So that's essentially how a FizzBuzz program works. Now, I'm going to just pull this up right here, and these is just some extra things you can try on your own. If you want to copy this down, I will hopefully have a copy of my code to post down in the comments or something. And a couple of things you can do is, instead of 3 or 5, you can change the code to run with 4 and 7, for example. And likewise, you can change it so that fizz and buzz are totally different things. You could say Mario and Luigi, or pizza and pasta, or something like that. And an extra challenge right here, this is for the real courageous people who are looking to sort of learn a little bit on their own. And my challenge to those people is to look up how to use user input in Java and put it in your code. Now what this means is you can let the users input how many times it might run, what numbers you could sort of make it divisible by, and what strings you could print it out. Although I bet you guys could come up with a lot more creative examples. And that's essentially it. This is how FizzBuzz in Java works. And I hope you all had a great time learning. Have a good day, and I'll see you later.